Hey everyone, this is Kurt Franken with Leading Saints, and you may not know this, but I wrote a book. That's right. It's called Is God Disappointed in Me? Removing Shame from a Gospel of Grace. And it has been so well received. So many people buying multiple copies, sharing it. And these principles in this book are crucial to not only process for yourself, but also to share with others. I wrote this book for the overwhelmed Latter-day Saint, the person who just feels like they're never doing enough, or God must be disappointed in them because I keep falling short. But there is so much more grace in this gospel. And so I truly encourage you to check out Is God Disappointed in Me? Available on Amazon and other church bookstores. Give it a read, because in this book, I want you to understand the true nature of God, His loving capacity, why we must focus on the past wounding in our life in order to receive His healing, the power of the divine identity He has given you. This gospel is so redemptive because it leads us to Jesus Christ. So go check out Is God Disappointed in Me? Removing Shame from a Gospel of Grace. All right, Maria Duncan from the greater Sacramento Valley area. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to connect in person. I was out in Sacramento, which I never turned down an opportunity to go to Sacramento since that's where I served my mission. And I was out there doing a fireside, and we connected through some mutual friends. And I thought we got to get Maria on the podcast, and we're doing it. It's actually happening. So thanks for doing this.
No, thank you. I'm really excited about this. I love the kind of information that you share with everyone, and I think it's a great opportunity.
Yes, so I'm excited to add you as part of the library. So you are a stake communications director. Maybe give us just a rundown as far as what that means in your area, what your stake is like, or just this sort of the frame that calling up for us.
Sure. So this is a calling that doesn't exist in Utah. It's in the rest of the world, though, has communication directors for every state. And in our area, that involves, well, this calling used to be called public affairs. And they changed it from being a public affairs director to add internal communications. And so that's when the title shift happened. And that happened right before COVID in 2020. And so we work with our stake presidency to support their priesthood objectives and support all their internal communications with the stake, as well as we're the face of the church, tend to be externally with the community. And part of that involves interfaith work, working with government, elected officials, and education in California. So education is newer to the calling, and that's something that right now, as far as I know, is just under the umbrella in California, to have relationships with our school boards and our superintendents, and to understand what the sex ed curriculum is being taught in all of our schools.
Wow. Yeah. So is that the education component that was just added on, you said, or?
So that was added a couple years ago,
Okay.
after I think it's called like the Healthy Youth Act in California was put into place. And it was also around the COVID era. The sex ed curriculum in California changed dramatically. And as school districts started implementing that, they decided that it would be good for families to stay informed about that. And so our job is to build those relationships, have those connections, understand what's being taught, and inform the parents. It's strictly informational. We don't persuade the parents one way or another as to how to react to it by any means. And we let them know if there is an opportunity to opt out of the curriculum, what they can do, what their options are, just keeping them informed and letting them make the decision as to what works best for their families.
Wow. So how long have you been in this role as the state communications rep?
So I was public affairs director in Oregon for 2 years, and then I've been doing communication director in California for 4 years.
Interesting.
I was just going to share, in major cities, it's actually a full-time paid position. So like LA, it's an employment position.
Oh, okay.
City. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then just with your experience with this calling, most people who are called to this, they typically walk into this with maybe some assumptions, or maybe they don't fully understand their role and what it all entails. So what are some of those misconceptions maybe that maybe you had or you've seen others have walking into this role as far as what it's about?
Sure. Probably when I first got this calling, you're given a lot of reading material, It's not in the church handbook. We have our own portal and our own access to our own handbook that's separate and different. And it was hours and hours of reading to understand all the layers of this assignment. And even after reading through that, probably one of the biggest misconceptions is that you are just supposed to do everything that the calling can do, that you should be doing it all. When the
Mm.
reality is you should be knowing what your scope of your umbrella of your calling looks like, and then counseling with your stake presidency and seeing what is important to them and focusing on their priesthood objectives. Because if your stake presidency says the whole education component, we don't want to touch it, we don't want to worry about it, we don't have resources or time, or we just feel inspired that that's not important in our area, then you aren't to do that. You're just to leave that alone. So that's probably the biggest misconception, is staying focused on what your priesthood leaders need at the time. So one of the rollouts that you may have seen um, in the church because of that is there have been a lot of traditional pageants and events that used to happen every single year in service projects and in stakes that have now been left behind um, because it isn't meeting what the priesthood objectives are currently. And so it's never just do a service project just to do a service project. Mormon Helping Hands, that was part of communications work under public affairs before. And so they would have like their traditional projects. And so some of those, maybe if it doesn't fit what the priesthood leaders are focused on, then you're not supposed to spend time and resources on it.
Mm. Yeah. So you said there is a specific resource in the, is it in the gospel library or in the handbook section for this, or it's separate from that?
There's like maybe a paragraph or two in the handbook, but there's a separate website and login and
Gotcha. And that's all on the church website.
yeah, it's the Global Communication Network is what it's called, and so you can't access it without a special login.
Gotcha. And so the good starting point is just sort of for a stake communications director is to regroup with their stake presidency and really understand their objectives on what they would want you to do, rather than just try and do everything that's in sort of in the general or in that direction, right?
Correct. Like you don't want to pursue your own scope of work. You really, so every year I sit down and have an interview with my stake presidency and understand what their greatest concerns are for the stake, what their needs are, any problems we're having in the community. We counsel back and forth together. In that global communication network, they have a recommended list of questions to interview your stake presidency with. And so I go through those with them and try to understand everything that they're worried about. And then I consider everything that I can do and make a list for them of all the ideas I have of how I can help them with their needs and issues. And then we meet together again, and that's how we build our annual plan. And so my annual plan is pretty strictly devised based on what my stake presidency needs and wants for our stake in our community. And then I go to the state council every month. Those monthly meetings are sometimes it's more frequent and less frequent depending on the state. But I go to those meetings with the High Council and the State Council and hear from them, and also share with the work that we're doing, so that all the leadership is on the same page.
Yeah. And so from all that process, what are the general directions that you have just for your specific area from your stake presidency?
In my area, one of the things we're really focused on right now is interfaith work. Um, Bringing the church out of obscurity is a big part of church communications, but it's also serving our fellow man and serving our neighbors. And you can't serve them effectively if you don't know them. So I spend a lot of time in other churches getting to know my community better and building these strong relationships with their church leadership and bringing my stake presidency into that relationship and helping them build a connection. So it's common for someone in my calling to be in this calling. Well, when I first got it, they said 3 to 5 years. And then a couple years later, they said, you'll probably stay the life of your stake presidency. At one of our more recent trainings, we were told 15 to 20 years.
Oh,
They
wow.
want us to stay in this calling, yeah, so that we can because these relationships that we form are very sincere, and it takes a lot of time to develop them. So
Yeah.
we need to be able to um, stay around and not just, you're not just going to be released on a whim.
Yeah. Interesting.
Really hard to get released.
Yeah. So, and how long have you done it up to this point in
6 years
this area?
now. In this area, 4, yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Great. So, and a lot of people, I would imagine, they think of like the state communications director, like maybe, yeah. So there's this like community like clothing drive coming up, and yeah, I'll be there and I'll be aware of it, make sure it gets announced. But I mean, for you, this has really become a weekly. I mean, it's a Sunday calling for you, isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, if there are times when I'm working on this calling 30 to 40 hours in a week, if I have a lot on my plate with it, um, on the low end, it's like 5 to 10 hours a week. Um, that's when there's not a ton going on. Like just last week, I was working with a nonprofit organization who's trying to apply to get in the giving machine. And so helping them with their application and the pictures that they want on their cards, and talking them through and helping them with that process. Um, I also, I will almost every Sunday, I will just show up at a Christian church or just any church in my area that's welcoming to visitors. If it's a church that I've never been to before, sometimes I'm visiting old churches to help keep that relationship going. But I will go visit a church in my area and I'll just enjoy their worship service with them, and I'll introduce myself to the pastor, and I'll start building a relationship. I'm usually asking questions. What are they doing for their congregations? What are their needs? What are they focused on? What are their concerns? Um, I'm trying to learn about like if they're doing any work for the community. A lot of them are functioning under their nonprofit to do food giveaways, and those, and then if they need help. And a lot of times they'll sign up for Just Serve. They'll become if they have service opportunities, they'll put those service opportunities on our Just Serve website so that they can help do that volunteer matching. Another thing that is really common that we do is we give them food grants to get access to goods from the bishop's storehouse. So there's a lot of churches who do amazing work providing food for the community, and they always are in need of more goods. And so we actually recently had Salt Lake call us and say, hey, we have a truck of food, a semi truck full of food that needs somewhere to go. Do you have anyone in need? And we were, yes. So we're calling all our contacts at the Seventh Day Adventist Church and at a local Christian church, um, and we're asking them, hey, can we bring you food? And do you have somewhere to store it? Are you able to take care of it so that till it gets out? And they're excited. Yes, yes, we want it. We want it. And so
Wow.
some of that is coming straight from Salt Lake on trucks out here to help feed our communities.
Wow, that's fantastic. And so I'm curious when you go. So on a typical Sunday, maybe you don't have. There's not like a pending event that's really taking your focus, and you wake up on a Sunday and you think, well, I'm going to go to a church in the community, and you just find one maybe you haven't been to, and you show up, attend the services, and then you just make it a point to talk with the pastor or the lead pastor after, and then ask him some questions, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. So one example that is more recent is there's a uh, Christian church in my community that is African American leadership. And the pastor there, Nehemiah, I had been to the church a couple of times and I'd introduced myself and made friendly, but I just felt like they were doing this really great food giveaway. And I wanted to share their services with some of our young people. The pastor is amazing. The spirit is so strong during his sermons. The music is phenomenal. I mean, they have this beautiful choir and they sing such great music, and it's fun and it's just a great experience. And so I was able to get a couple of my youth in my stake to come with me and do the food giveaway and help volunteer to give food away during the week. They skipped school for a couple hours and came and helped. And then they came to church with me that Sunday to hear Pastor Nehemiah give a sermon. And it was amazing. It was so good. And some of the things that he says, I mean, it sounds like almost direct quotes from our prophet. A lot of the message is exactly the same, and he reads right out of the scriptures, and he does a great job of bringing the gospel to life for our youth. And so my young men that were there were just excited, and they loved it, and they felt the spirit. And then after, I brought them up to meet Pastor Nehemiah, and Nehemiah, upon seeing these young men, was reminded of this relationship that he had with two other young men from our church. That during COVID, some of our missionaries had helped him set up streaming for his Christian church in Sacramento, at their main campus. And these missionaries and him had developed a friendship, and he even flew out to Salt Lake City to attend one of their weddings in the Salt Lake Temple. Like, obviously he didn't go in the temple, but in that, maybe it wasn't the Salt Lake Temple, but a temple in Utah. And he was able to go out and be in Utah and meet his family, this missionary family, and see their wedding. And they come out and visit him, and they still have this friendship. Well, I've met Nehemiah several times. He's never shared that with me, that he has this connection to our church in that way. And they get a $10,000 food grant from us. And he's never brought up this other connection. But when he saw our young men, it sparked this conversation, because they look like baby missionaries. They will be in a few years.
Yeah.
And so he shared this with us, which is just really neat. And I can just see Heavenly Father planting these seeds in his life to have this positive, beautiful friendship with our church. And when our missionaries go out and they do service in the community, they do just serve projects, at least in our area, they're told that they're not to proselyte at all. The purpose of the work is just to serve. And they're not allowed to talk about gospel topics. If someone is to ask them questions, they're supposed to tell them, like, thank you for asking. If you'd like to to get an answer about this at another time, I'd love to share with you, but right now I'm just here to serve. So they're really there to do that service. And so the friendships that they develop with the leadership and those that they serve are very sincere and very strong.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. Are any of these pastors that you go to, are they skeptical as you approach them, or and they hear that you're from our church, or I mean, do you get mixed results, or most are just happy to have you there? And then do they have needs that you can immediately help with?
No, that's a great question. I do think sometimes they are a little skeptical. There was a pastor that I have a content creator on my team. I have 14 people on my communication committee, and
Oh,
one
I
of
was
those
going to ask you that.
people,
Yeah.
yeah,
It sounds like
is
it's
a
an operation.
it is. It's quite like when we have an event, all these wheels are turning and everyone knows about it from different sources. I have someone that just writes articles for the newspaper. And so I have a content creator who does video. And we offered this really great Christian church in our area that has a food giveaway. If he could come and make a video about their food giveaway and what they do, so that they could use it for their marketing material to help get more donations to them, and just to let the community know about all the good they're doing. And the entire time, the pastor just seemed like, how's this going to play out? What's this going to look like? Like, not totally sure if he even wanted the product from us. And then when he got the finished product, and nowhere on it anywhere does it say our church or that we made it or have any affiliation, you would never in a million years have any idea that we had anything to do with it. I could just tell he was so relieved and was so grateful. And then a trust started. And before that, our missionaries, when they would volunteer at their food giveaway, were asked not to wear their name tags. And then after that, they were told they were allowed to leave their name tags on while they came and served there. And so I think that sincere service over time, it does soften hearts, and it does help build this bridge between our church and others.
Yeah. Wow. That's helpful. Anything else is, if there's a state communications director listening, or anybody on the committee or council there, and they're wanting to show up to churches, any other advice you give them in this practice of visiting different churches?
That's a great question. I participate. I think that's important. If I've brought people with me in leadership that are very stiff and uncomfortable, and they just stand there. And you also maybe dress to your audience. So if you're showing up to most Christian churches, coming with a full suit, blazer, tie is going to make you stand out like a sore thumb,
Yeah.
right? Like, at least shed the tie, unbutton the top button, like, look just a little more comfortable. And in some churches, like wearing jeans and a nice shirt is much like a collared shirt is more appropriate than wearing a suit.
Yeah.
So I would say like cater to your audience that you're interacting with because you don't want them to feel uncomfortable or like you don't belong with them. And another thing that I would say is when they're singing and they're like, expect to sing, expect to clap, expect to sway to the music, have a good time, like relax a little bit and enjoy it. And when you do, at least for me, I always feel the Spirit. I have never visited another church where I did not feel the Spirit. Every single time, at some point in the meeting, not always during the music, sometimes it's during the sermon, but at some point during every single meeting, I hear the Holy Ghost teach me something. I feel the Savior's love for them and how proud He is of them and how glad He is that they're worshiping Him. And so that has been just a really beautiful part of my calling is really feeling like we are all one. We are all God's children together. And feeling that connection to his children that don't worship this in the same way that we do.
Hmm. Yeah, that's powerful. And I love this dynamic of, these stories you tell of bringing youth with you. Is that like is that an intentional thing you do, or do you just happen to grab the youth as you go, or what advice would you give as far as involving youth in these visits or in the communications?
Right. So I try to be really thoughtful about it. I make sure it's a church I've been to before and I know what I'm walking into and that the message is very consistent with what we believe for the sake of taking someone else's children into that. I want that.
Yeah.
I want their parents to know that we're being really thoughtful about that. And then I've mostly just felt inspired. I've prayed about it a lot. We involve our youth a lot out here. We have youth on our communication committee. We have youth that work on the giving machine committee. We had to get special permission to have youth do that. And when they were on the giving machines, I think 2 years ago, it was the first time that anyone under 18 had been allowed to be on the giving machine committee. And then we had them part of our temple open house. There was a special youth that were able to come and give VIP tours to politicians and religious leaders with alongside General Authority 70s that had come out from Salt Lake during the VIP portion of the temple open house, which was the week before it was open to the general public. So the youth out here are getting these opportunities, and it's so important because if you never, in my opinion, if you never bring youth into another church and then they're adults and they somehow go to another church and they feel the spirit, it could be pretty confusing to them. Like, wait a second, I'm feeling the spirit here. I thought I wasn't supposed to. And they start questioning things, right? They need to know that, of course, you're going to feel the spirit in these other churches. You're going to have you can have really positive experiences, and we can still be one children, like one group under in the eyes of God together. Especially, and it doesn't necessarily have to be always with those who are Christian faith. Recently, I was invited, well, I guess last winter, I was invited to a special dinner that a Methodist church was hosting for Muslims in our community in Sacramento. And at the time, our church hadn't been able to form a relationship with that Methodist church or with the Muslims in that area. And so I was very quick to, it was the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So I had tons of things planned and I set it all aside and went out to this dinner. And it was amazing. I was treated so beautifully, but I had my name tag on that said that I was from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I had multiple people stopping me and wait a second, I never thought we'd see one of you here. What are you like? They were so
Oh, wow.
surprised that I would come into their church and be part of something they were doing. And they were the Methodists were really surprised. The Muslims were surprised. Everyone was really shocked that I would be willing to come be a part of what they do. And that really hit me because I thought, so often I'm inviting politicians and leaders from other churches when I speak in church, I'll invite them to come hear my talk if something about my topic pertains to something that they're working on. But I need to be just as quick to go to their church and to be in their world and to experience what they're offering. So I've made it a point to do my best to never turn down if I can possibly make any offer, any invitation to attend another person's worship service. I will go. And a lot of times when I'm talking with politicians, and I will ask them, do you have a church that you go to? Oh yeah, I go to this Christian church in the community. I'll say, oh, I love that church. And if they say, I haven't been in a while, I must admit, I don't go to church as often as I should. I'll say, oh, I would love to go with you, and I will offer to attend their church with them. And really, anytime we bring anyone closer to Jesus Christ, we're doing his work, even if it's within their church. And I'll go to church with them and worship with them. And that continues to build friendship. And our Muslim friends that we went to church with or went to this Muslim event at the Methodist church ended up reaching out to me and asking if they could come to one of our church services during Christmas time. So they came to one of our sacrament meetings, and then they've invited me to break the fast at Ramadan with them. And so we've been able to have quite a few different pretty personal interactions and share a lot about our faith. They came to our Temple Live Nativity event, and I was really amazed at how much that touched them. These leaders in the Muslim community were crying as they saw the live nativity at our temple, and it was really impactful to them because of their love for Jesus Christ as a great prophet. So that was
Yeah.
really special to be able to share and connect with them.
Yeah, and where my mind goes is, in a more secular context, we label this networking, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
power of networking, where you're going to events not because you have an agenda or there's a reason for you even to be there, but you're there and you're getting more familiar with the community. Then, yeah, when you meet that politician and you hear, oh, he goes to that church, oh, I know the pastor there. Or, again, it's just sort of you begin to reach out within the community, understanding and having a higher understanding of what's going on and who's where and what church is there and what they're doing. And in the long run, that's a very powerful place to be, and you can get a lot of good done because you've sort of done those baby steps of networking over a long run, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes Salt Lake will come to town and we'll have an apostle out here for a fireside or an event, and I'll get an email that says, hey, they want to meet with someone of the Catholic Church, or they want to meet with a different, a diocese, whatever it is that they are feeling inspired that they need to meet with someone in the community. And so all the communication directors will go through their Rolodex and say, oh, I've got a great relationship with this guy or with this woman, and then we'll set up those meetings and we'll help facilitate that. Because when the apostles travel all over the world, they're serving us, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but they're also out in the communities wanting to connect and to serve and help there where they can.
Yeah. Anything else you'd say about, because you really have to, in the communications, and I think it's been said a lot, but we'll reiterate it here. But you got to really turn off the conversion agenda or moving people towards baptism or learning more about our church so that hopefully they'll join it someday. But you really have to just turn that part of your brain off and just be focused on connections, relationships, all those things. Anything else that comes to mind that you would add in that around that topic?
Thank you for asking that. That's actually been one of the greatest reliefs of my calling. I remember the general conference, maybe just before I got this assignment or just after, for the first time, President Uchtdorf gave a talk where he said that we do not have to sell the church. And I remember thinking, okay, I want to be a missionary. I want to teach people about the gospel. How do I not feel like I'm selling the gospel of Jesus Christ when I'm doing that? And through this calling, where I'm absolutely not allowed to proselyte in any way, and it would be, you know, very uncomfortable if I tried to and ruin my work, really, in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
that it has been a huge relief because I've learned how to just look at people, meet them exactly where they are, love them for where they are, and then do my best to support them right where they are. Instead of seeing this future for them and wanting to bring them to this future place, I I can just be with them in their presence. And it's actually probably been really phenomenal missionary work and changed what I think about missionary work in a lot of ways. I know that we've heard stories of missions where they become more service oriented and they have a lot more success. And that kind of connects to this, in that I do feel like we're softening hearts and sometimes softening them into pools of putty, like really like so soft. The hearts of our friends have become that if it was the right thing and if the opportunity was there for someone else to come in and proselyte to them, it would be very easy. I mean, our Muslim friends got into very deep conversations with us about their beliefs, and then they'd ask us about our beliefs, just out of a natural flow of friendship, right? Because of me wanting to learn what they really believe in. It turns out we both believe in premortal existence, which is kind of a unique doctrine. And it was really special to be able to make that connection with them and hear from them. And I just think it is, when the Savior returns, if this work continues the way that it is, um, it will be very easy for him to gather all his children and all the different churches and to bring us together, because we actually have these bridges built of friendship that I think make missionary work really easy. When we had the temple open house during that VIP week, we had all kinds of politicians, senators, like congressmen, assemblymen, secretary of state's office, um, down to like city representatives and school boards and superintendents. And then we had Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs. We had Jewish leaders, Muslim leaders, Sikh leaders, Catholic leadership. And I was able to go on several of those tours with them through the temple. And it was really amazing to me because of this friendship and trust that we have with them. Most of them came in with these really soft hearts and open minds and just wanting to learn and see and curious minds. And our General Authority 70 would be on the tours with us a lot of times. And we would take them room by room, and they would give very clear details about each room of the temple. And when we got to the celestial room, we would sit there in complete silence for about 5 minutes. And then we'd move to the ceiling room and talk about our feelings in the celestial room. And I saw some of our, Christian Black pastors stand in front of the mirrors in the ceiling rooms with their wives, learning about eternal marriage, crying. I saw their mothers that were on the tours, crying and telling me how they felt so close to their loved ones who had passed away in the celestial room. One of our Sikh leaders, he went through the temple on like 12 tours. He kept coming through because he loved it so much, and he would feel so close to his dad while he was in our temple. And these they were able to have these really powerful spiritual experiences because this wasn't their first time having a connection with our church, because we already had a foundation laid of friendship and love. And I just think that some of the best missionary work that you can do.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It may not be like the converting part where you baptize at the end, but it's pretty powerful stuff.
And what about the other direction? Do you ever feel like, our Protestant brothers and sisters are trying to maybe have you rethink the Book of Mormon, or trying to maybe sway you towards their side at all? Or
I haven't experienced that yet. I'm not sure why, but
okay,
I
really nice.
I haven't experienced anyone where I felt like they were trying to convert me to their faith. Um, no, and I'm mostly just, probably because we're usually looking for ways to help them, and they're just so grateful for the help that we're
Yeah,
offering.
yeah, that's cool. That's great. Um, you mentioned you have 14 people that serve with you on the state communications. Is that right?
Hmm.
And what are just, you mentioned like graphic design person, or maybe rattle off some of the other like roles and focuses that they have as the support team.
Sure. So we have the youth specialist. We have someone who's in charge of writing articles for the paper about events that our state hosts. Um, or that we participate in. We also have um, someone who's running the stake Instagram account, the social media, Facebook. We have a stake presidency member on the committee. I also have Just Serve leadership and Just Serve specialists. Just Serve is under the umbrella of our committee. Um, we also have education specialists. So those are my people on the ground that are building those connections in the school districts.
Yeah, it's a good team.
And then interfaith work,
Yeah.
interfaith leadership, and we probably could get more and have more because there's so many different components to what we do.
Yeah, and I assume it's just sort of as needed basis, right? Like, wow, we're really overwhelmed with Just Serve or with social media stuff, so why don't we call another person or ask another person to be put there, right?
Sure. So with Just Serve, we may have one person who's more focused on getting volunteers to use Just Serve, and then the other person may be more focused on getting nonprofits to sign up opportunities onto Just Serve. Um, Something that a lot of stakes in our area are doing are getting Just Serve clubs on the high school campuses.
Nice,
So that's really cool. Mm-hmm.
nice. And then, remind me the name of the temple that is most recent there.
So our newest temple is the Feather River Temple in Yuba
Okay,
City.
and that's dedicated now, right?
Correct.
It's hard to keep track of all these temples. So, any like advice or tips, tricks, or strategies as far as having a temple open house? And you've alluded to some of them here, but any else that comes to mind?
I greatly underestimated how powerful the opportunity was going to be to stand in rooms of the temple sharing testimony of what we do there and how strong and easy the spirit would come. And if I could go back and do something differently, I would have dug in harder. That year and 2 years leading up to the temple open house, every single Sunday I would have been in a different church. And that's part of what has motivated me to do that now. Is I would have been there, I would have been serving and helping and building strong relationships so that when we had our VIP week and we were able to invite people to come to these special closed tours with the general authorities, I would have um, I would have had 10 times the amount of people come as came, and we had a huge turnout. We brought a lot more people than Salt Lake was ever expecting us to, but I would, if I could go back, I would have done even more because it was the most powerful experience of my life. It completely changed my testimony, my focus, and my understanding of the temple forever.
Wow. That's really encouraging and helpful. And it seems like nowadays that pretty much every member of the church, you're going to have a local temple open house to some degree. I get there's some that maybe are several hours away, but with all this temple building happening, I think it's really an opportunity for us to uh, have an opportunity to seize the day with inviting people and inviting people to stand in our temples and let the Spirit do the rest of the work. So really powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting. In this calling, we're told that we don't have stake boundaries. We don't have ward boundaries to not operate based on any kind of boundaries of the church, to just get out and do the work. So if I meet, like, there's a town council member in my town whose brother is a pastor of a church in a neighboring stake. It's even a different coordinating council. But I still go visit him and I've helped connect local leadership to him because then when if he needs grants or volunteers, that's more reasonable. But I still keep that friendship going and it's still considered very appropriate. So with communications work, you don't have boundaries. And so it makes it great because when we have these temple open houses, if I have a friendship with someone that I've developed, there's an assemblyman from San Diego that keeps coming up here that I've made a friendship with. When they rededicate the San Diego temple, I'm going down there and I'm going to take that state assemblyman through. So um, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, you really don't have to wait for the temple in your area or things to happen in your stake to do it. Be aware of what's happening even within a drive's distance, and you can really have an impact. To take them to these things, and they can still have the similar experience.
Totally.
Well, Maria, this has been so insightful and inspiring. Any other point, principle, concept, story you want to make sure we fit in here before we wrap up, or is that a good summary or synopsis?
I feel like that's good. I've been just so grateful to be part of this work. It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's some of the funnest work I've ever done in the church. I miss serving in my ward. I miss having that connection to our members, but I love being able to connect to my brothers and sisters of other faiths.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you're in luck because they may keep you in there another 14, 15 years. So
Right. Sounds like I have plenty of time.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, what an awesome calling to have and to be involved in and connect with people, and offer them the spirit of Christ in our way, and take the spirit of Christ in their way, and just makes for thriving communities for sure. So, last question I have for you, Maria, is as you reflect on your time as a leader as the state communications director, how has being a leader helped you become a better follower of Jesus Christ?
I think I realize important how important every individual is to Jesus Christ, and how if I'm working hard at something and it's really hard, then I'm probably not doing it right. And I'm probably need to pivot somehow. That when God cares about something, it is easy, way easier than it should be. And he magnifies our efforts. And, um, and that revelation really can come instantly when we need it. And I love all of God's children, and I love learning about the different ways that people worship him. And I know that when I leave these other churches, I felt the spirit and I'm changed and I want to be a better person. And then I'm so, so grateful when I come back to our church and I get to experience my priesthood covenants and ordinances. And having the priesthood it's also been something that has shined for me. Maybe being in so many different organizations, that I have more value of the priesthood than I've ever had before. And I'm so grateful for priesthood covenants um, and for our access to priesthood authority. I also um, feel like I get to use the priesthood authority that I've been given in the realm of my calling all the time. And I'm amazed at how Heavenly Father will bring my efforts to life and magnify them and make it better than I have any business being. I have no training for anything like this. I studied computer science in college and technology systems. I'm supposed to be a nerd in my house, on a computer, not out in the community. And so I feel like he's really helped me to go beyond what I'm capable of because of this assignment.